Okay. First things first. Here's the equation for a pendulum. You haven't seen this before. Don't worry about it. It's just what it is, and we'll go through it a little bit later. In order to graph, we need to turn this equation into y equals mx plus b. Okay, so we need to turn it into slope-intercept form. So the problem is right now it's got that square root. So we can't do anything until we get rid of the square root. So what we're going to do is get rid of the square root. And we're going to do that by squaring everything. We're going to square the 2 pi. We're going to square the square root of L over G. We're going to square the period. So when I square the period, I get period squared. When I square 2, I get 4. When I square pi, I get pi squared. When I square the square root of L over G, the square root goes away, and I'm left with L over G. Now, I'm going to combine the things that are variables and the things that are constant. So period squared is the dependent variable. It's the thing we measured. We measured period and we figured out how the period changed. So this is going to be the y. Length is our independent variable. It's the thing that we caused, we changed. So this is going to be the x value. Which means all this stuff here, 4 pi squared over g, is going to be the slope. So I rewrote the equation to be period squared equals 4 pi squared over g plus 0. 0 is the intercept, so there is none. 4 pi squared over g is the slope. Length is x. Period squared is y. So again, all I did is I squared everything so that I could get it in y equals mx plus b. And the only other weird thing I did is I moved g to be underneath the 4 pi squared instead of underneath the L. And I did that because g is constant. So 4 is a constant, pi is a constant, g is a constant. So I put all the constants together. So here's the equation that we're going to graph. So period squared is the y-axis, length is the x-axis, and 4 pi squared over g is the slope. Okay, you're going to be using Desmos to graph, just like we've been doing. So we're not going to do anything new or fancy or weird or anything like that. I've gone ahead and I've linked it on Schoology, so you can get it from there. It's in the Day 3 folder. So you can get the link there, or you can just go desmos.com/calculator. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to your Lab A. So go ahead and pull Lab A up in front again. You're going to go to Lab A, and you are going to find your data table for length. Not your data table for mass, not your data table for amplitude, your data table for length. We're going to plot length as the x-axis, and we're going to plot period squared as the y-axis on the graph. So what I want you to do is I want you to circle two things. The first thing I want you to circle is the length numbers. So find your length numbers and circle them. And next to it, write x. That's to remind you that that's the x data table, the x side of the data table. Now I want you to find period squared and circle that. We don't have period squared. So here's what you need to do. Only on the length chart. Only on the length chart. Not on the mass chart, not on the amplitude chart. Only on the length chart. I need you to square the period. Square the period. And then I want you to circle that and put a y next to it. So you're going to circle your lengths and put them on the x. You're going to circle your y's, or your period squareds, and you're going to put them on your y's. Once you've done that, you'll go to Desmos. You'll go plus table. You're going to put your lengths on the x. You're going to put your period squareds on the y, and then you're going to do the graph. Again, to do the fit line plus expression, y1, curly q, m1, x1 plus b1. And then from there, you're ready to just follow the directions. Plot it, use the expression, use your fit line to write what the value for m is. And then you'll finish up the rest of the part of the lab from there. So go ahead and use this time to work on this. All of the lab, A, B, do next class. So use your time here. You got 20 minutes or so. Use your time here to get lab B done. You can always finish lab A on your own if you need to, but work on lab B to get B finished. Because B is the trickier one because you haven't done a lot of this stuff before. You graphed on Desmos, but it's been a little while, and you haven't done this like weird period squared stuff before. So I want to make sure you don't get confused on any of that. So I'm going to come around to every table. I'm going to see how you're doing, check in on you on the labs, see what you need to finish up, see if you have any questions for lab B. And then there's going to be a little bit more math to do on the second page of lab B. You're going to figure out what the slope is and use that to calculate G. And then once you've found that, then you'll do a percent error to figure out how close you are to what you thought you should get. Okay? Again, if you have trouble with any of that, let me know and I'll help you out. But let me come around and see where y'all are on the lab, see if I can help you out so that you can keep going from there. All right, more questions y'all have? Do I actually square it? Yes. No, you actually square it. So you take your period, you square it, and you write it in the column next to it.
Whenever I square the square symbol.
No, all you got to do is type in the number. So once you square it on there, you just have to type in the number. Okay, question. So plus
Why did she pick the
table,
looks like this one?
and you put the number in. And then you type in, I'll put it back up on the screen. Then you type in the equation the way I have it up here on the board. Then you type in the equation that way. I'm not sure you have any questions. Just need any questions. Either of y'all got any questions? Either of y'all got any questions? Either of y'all got any questions? So period is the total time divided by 10, because you did 10 oscillations back and forth. So total time divided by 10 will give you the period, and then you square that. All right, thank you. Do y'all have any questions?
Discrimination against small things.
Say, is that what you use for your lengths? Yeah, yeah. So it would be 0.2, 0.4, 0.5. Yeah.
I have
Questions?
no idea.
find your period. Period is the time to go once. So the average will be the time to go 10 times. So if you want to find the time to go once, what would you do? Close. That's how you find the average. You would add them, no, you would add them up and divide by how many there are. That's how you find the average. The period is the time to go once. So if this is the time to go 10 times, how would you find the time to go once? Yeah, by what? So that's how you find the period.
How are you supposed to put 10?
Why?
No, how? You got 3.
No. The average, you add them up and divide by 3. That'll give you the average. To find the period, you divide the average by 10.
Oh, okay.
Let me know when you have that filled out because there's one more step you need to do. Yep. What'd you use for your length?
That's why it needs to be in meters, not centimeters. So it's 0.23, 0.3, 0.4. All right, an important thing to make mention of. When you put in your lengths, they absolutely, positively have to be in meters. They cannot be in centimeters. So make sure that if you use like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 centimeters, you put it in as 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. Absolutely has to be in meters, cannot be in centimeters, or you're going to get horrible, no good, very bad numbers.
Like the lengths have to be in?
The lengths have to be in meters.
Are we just considering
Yeah. Just do 3.14 if you need to.
Okay, I've got this.
Do we need to do this for all of them?
For right now, just do the length. You'll have to do all 3 of the table, but for right now, just do the